Let's talk to this man. He always has. He's the yarnster of Australian radio. He knows more about Ipswich than Paul Pasali.
Yes.
And
well, where were you going after
Paul
that?
Tully.
Oh, right, okay.
Andrew Antonelli.
Down in the gully with Paul
Tully and Tanya
Milligan in the Lockyer Valley.
Yeah. Anyhow, let's talk to him. He's going to talk about a love story. 165th 5th anniversary of extraordinary series of Ipswich court cases that proves love will conquer all. Are you there?
Yes, I am, Danny. Yeah, we do a lot of murder stories in Ipswich, but I found one love story amongst them, so I thought I'd warm you up as well.
Well, take it away there, Harold the H. Ark, Pig, Cock-a-doodle-doo.
Yeah, look, this month is the 165th anniversary of an extraordinary set of series of court cases. Now, in July 1859, William Voysey was committed for trial in Ipswich on a charge of stealing the goods of Reuben Treadwell. Now, Voysey had been carrying on an illicit affair with Mrs. Emily Treadwell, who was Treadwell's wife. Now, on the day of the alleged theft, Mrs. Treadwell left her home with a bundle of clothes, rings and so on, and met Voysey where they had arranged in the bush just outside of Little Ipswich, or West Ipswich today. Voysey provided horses and a side saddle for Mrs. Treadwell, and they started off in their new life together by way of Warwick to New England in northern New South Wales. But Voysey detoured to Toowoomba, where he got work. Now, Mrs. Treadwell wasn't happy about that, so she came back here, home, to her husband in Little Ipswich, minus some of her clothes and rings. Now, she had no intention of remaining, however, because she very coolly told her husband that she intended to be off again in the morning. But anyway, look, as well as the alleged theft of the clothes, jewellery, and presumably the wife, Voysey also faced a charge of assaulting Treadwell. See, Voysey was talking to Mrs. Treadwell over the fence when her husband called her in. Voysey responded with some obscene language, I'm not going to tell you, and coming over and striking Treadwell in the head. So the court found Voysey guilty of both theft and assault and imposed a small fine of £1, but an enormous 12-month good behaviour bond of £160.
Wow.
So to be sure that he'd get his money back, and away from temptation, Voysey moved far away from Mrs. Treadwell, at first to Rockhampton, where he set up shop as a wheelwright and general blacksmith in Fitzroy Street. He took his business further north to Mackay, and that's where a young man employed by Voysey died in a shockingly sudden manner. So there is some death in this love story. The man passed away from the effects of an emetic, which he had taken to induce vomiting. He was dead within 2 minutes of being carried into Voysey's house. The enormous quantity of blood which gushed from his mouth and nostrils suggested that one of his heart arteries had been ruptured. Anyway, Voysey went back to Rockhampton and effectively drank himself to death. You see, in February 1912, he was convicted of drunkenness for the 7th time. 8 months later, and he was dead and buried in the South Rockhampton Cemetery. But meanwhile, back here in Little Ipswich, it was a very different story for Reuben Treadwell. He prospered as a bricklayer and builder. Despite all that happened in court, Reuben and his wife Emily got back together. They had 3 children at the time of the trials. Afterwards, they had at least 5 more children and remained married for a further 41 years. Until Reuben died in 1900 of whatever. Now, he was remembered particularly for his sterling, upright character.
That's for sure, after all those kids.
Now, of their 8 children, their 2 sons both served in the Boer War. Now, one son, Reuben Jr., was Squadron Sergeant Major with Queensland's 7th Battalion in South Africa. He became a prison warder in Toowoomba. The other son, George, was a private with the 6th Queensland Imperial Bushman and became a Toowoomba newspaper editor or publisher. Then there was a daughter, Clara, who really put the family on the map. She married the Darling Downs grazier, Charles Rowden Whipple. He was a member of the Ballon Shire Council for 25 years, and was the Shire chairman 3 times. When he died in 1934, his estate was valued at £49,000, or over $4 million in today's money. But get this, he had inherited $1 million from his cousin, Mrs. Eliza Rowden Hall. Now, Mrs. Hall was childless and a well-known philanthropist. Her estate was valued at almost $76 million.
Back then.
Yeah, but now her husband had been a major investor in the stagecoach business, Cobb & Co. So despite the drama 165 years ago of Voysey obtaining a side saddle to run away with Mrs. Treadwell and the public humiliation of the court cases that followed, it was the resilience and the love of Ipswich's Treadwell family that won out the end. Now, Danny, if that doesn't make you warm on a cold morning, I don't know what will.
It's made me warm, and they played up back in the day then too. It's just there wasn't as much social media around. So, you know, all these older people that keep telling me that, oh, not in my day. Well, it did happen in your day. Fair enough.
But the side saddle wasn't enough to entice it to Woomba. That was just too much. So she came back to Ipswich.
Now, mate, you got all these stories on Ipswich, and you go out with your metal detector and everything else. You're so passionate about history and heritage. Where can we look at this story and others?
Yes, go online to historyouthere.com. All the stories are there.
Mate, you'll love the next yarn from Jane Keir, who does The Way We Were in the Sunday Mail. And it's Newstead House, the first house ever built in Brisbane. It's being reopened, I think, this weekend.